I'm Garrett, a 34-year-old software engineer who saved for 2 years to give my family the ultimate Hawaiian vacation. $20,000, countless hours planning, all because I wanted to create special memories with the people I love. Then my sister Amanda dropped her bomb. I forbid you from bringing your girlfriend on this trip. The same trip I was entirely funding. Her ultimatum left me with a choice I never thought I'd make. Sometimes standing your ground means watching others fall from theirs. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If you've ever had to stand up to a controlling family member, hit that like button and subscribe to hear how this vacation drama unfolded. Growing up as the middle child in our family was always a challenge. Amanda, my older sister by 4 years, established herself as the alpha early on. Even as kids, she would dictate which games we played, which TV shows we watched, and even tried to control what friends I could bring home. Our parents often gave in to her demands to keep the peace, unintentionally reinforcing her belief that she could control everything and everyone around her. I was always the peacemaker, finding ways to navigate around her authoritarian approach to family dynamics. While Amanda went into business management, fittingly a position of authority, I found my passion in computer science. The logical, rational world of coding provided me with clarity that family interactions often lacked. After college, I joined a tech startup that took off unexpectedly. 6 years of grueling work, countless late nights, and skipped vacations paid off when we were acquired by a larger company. Suddenly, I found myself with financial stability that exceeded anything I had imagined for myself at this stage in life. My parents, Richard and Diane, had always supported my dreams despite having modest means themselves. Dad worked 40 years at the same manufacturing plant, and Mom was an elementary school teacher. They never complained, but I knew they hadn't taken a real vacation in over a decade. Their 40th wedding anniversary was approaching, and I wanted to do something special for them. I want to take the whole family to Hawaii, I announced during Sunday dinner 6 months before the planned trip. All expenses paid. Mom and Dad, you deserve to celebrate 40 years in paradise. The look of disbelief and joy on my parents' faces made every penny worth it before we even started planning. Dad tried to refuse, but I insisted. You two have given me everything. Let me give you this. That's when Amanda's wheels started turning. What resort? Which island? What kind of rooms are we talking about? The questions came rapid fire, her mind already calculating how to maximize my offer. I had researched extensively before making the announcement. I'm booking at the Royal Hawaiian on Waikiki Beach. 5-star accommodations, ocean view suites, 7 days with all activities included. Amanda's eyes widened. I want connecting rooms for my family. The kids need their own space, but I need to be able to check on them easily. This was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, she sent daily texts with suggestions that were thinly veiled demands. The connecting rooms weren't enough. She wanted their suite on a higher floor than everyone else's for the best view. She insisted on specific flight times despite the significantly higher cost. She even sent meal preferences for the entire week, expecting me to make special arrangements with the resort's restaurants in advance. I remained patient, accommodating what I reasonably could. After all, I wanted everyone to enjoy themselves. I booked the connecting rooms, requested the higher floor, and adjusted our departure time to a mid-morning flight instead of the early one I'd originally planned. I drew the line at rearranging the resort's dining options for an entire week, explaining that part of the vacation experience was spontaneity. Throughout this planning process, my parents expressed their gratitude repeatedly, often embarrassed by Amanda's escalating requests. My younger brother-in-law Derek, Amanda's husband of 15 years, would call me privately to apologize for her behavior. You know how she gets, he would say, his voice tinged with resignation after years of taking the path of least resistance. But we really appreciate what you're doing for everyone. Their kids, my niece Lily and nephews Jason and Emma, were ecstatic about the trip. 14-year-old Lily had been researching Hawaiian culture and teaching herself basic phrases. 12-year-old Jason couldn't wait to try surfing, and 8-year-old Emma talked endlessly about swimming with dolphins. Their excitement fueled my determination to make this trip perfect for everyone. I created a detailed itinerary, balancing structured activities with free time. I arranged for a professional photographer to capture the family during a private luau celebration for my parents' anniversary. I even coordinated with the hotel to have leis and welcome drinks ready upon our arrival. Every detail was carefully considered, every expense calculated and covered from my own savings. By the time we were 2 months away from departure, everything was set. 6 ocean view suites were booked and paid for. 14 flight tickets were purchased and confirmed. Excursions were scheduled, transportation arranged, and special touches planned for each day. I had spent just over $20,000 ensuring my family would have the vacation of a lifetime. Little did I know that Amanda was about to throw a wrench into all my careful planning. I met Rachel at a charity event hosted by my company. She was working with the nonprofit organization we were supporting, coordinating volunteer efforts for underprivileged children. While I was immediately attracted to her warm smile and quick wit, what really captivated me was watching her patiently explain coding basics to a group of middle schoolers. Her ability to simplify complex concepts and her genuine excitement when the kids grasped new ideas reminded me of my own passion for technology. Our first date was supposed to be coffee but stretched into dinner as conversation flowed effortlessly. Rachel had a way of listening that made you feel truly heard, a quality I found increasingly rare in our distraction-filled world. 8 months into our relationship, I knew she was someone special. She had met most of my family at various gatherings and had won over nearly everyone with her genuine interest in their lives and her thoughtful nature. Everyone except Amanda, that is. From the moment they met at my parents' Christmas dinner, Amanda had been coldly polite to Rachel. She would answer direct questions with minimal words, interrupt Rachel's stories, or simply walk away mid-conversation to attend to something urgent. When Rachel offered to help in the kitchen, Amanda assigned her the most menial tasks while engaging our cousin's new girlfriend in more substantive food preparation. Rachel never complained about this treatment. "Family dynamics are complicated," she said when I apologized for Amanda's behavior. "She's probably just protective of your family circle." Despite Amanda's attitude, Rachel had formed a genuine bond with my parents. She and my mom exchanged recipes regularly, and she had helped my dad set up his new tablet, patiently showing him how to video chat with his grandchildren. My niece and nephews adored her, especially after she helped Lily create a science project that won first place in her school fair. When planning the Hawaii trip, including Rachel seemed natural to me. We were in a serious relationship, and the thought of spending a week in paradise without her didn't feel right. More importantly, I knew she would add joy to the experience for everyone. I decided to announce Rachel's inclusion during our monthly family dinner at my parents' house. We had just finished the main course when I brought it up casually. "By the way, I've added Rachel to our Hawaii plans. I've already updated all the reservations." My parents immediately expressed their delight. "That's wonderful," Mom said. "Rachel, you'll love the botanical gardens we're visiting. I remember you mentioning your interest in tropical plants." The kids chimed in with excitement about showing Rachel the marine life they were hoping to see while snorkeling. Derek nodded politely, as he did with most family announcements. Amanda's reaction was subtle but unmistakable. Her smile froze, her fork paused midway to her mouth, and her eyes narrowed slightly before she carefully composed her expression. "How nice," she said flatly. "I thought this was a family vacation, but I guess the definition of family keeps expanding." The moment passed quickly as Dad launched into a story about his coworker's recent trip to Maui, but I caught the look Amanda shot Rachel when she thought no one was watching. Still, she didn't raise further objections during dinner, and I hoped that meant she was accepting the situation. 2 weeks before our departure date, my phone rang at 11:30 at night. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. "Is everything okay?" I answered, immediately concerned about a late-night call. "No, everything is not okay." Amanda's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. We need to talk about this vacation situation. What situation? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I knew what was coming. Rachel coming along. I've been thinking about it, and I don't think it's appropriate. This is supposed to be a family celebration for Mom and Dad. I sat up in bed, fully awake now. Rachel is important to me, Amanda. She's part of my life. You've only been dating for a few months. She dismissed. This trip is about our family, not your latest girlfriend. 8 months isn't exactly latest, and everyone else is fine with her coming. Well, I'm not. Amanda's voice rose. She'll change the whole dynamic. The kids won't be able to be themselves around a stranger. She's hardly a stranger. Your kids love Rachel. Lily was texting her just yesterday about the Hawaiian language phrases they've been learning together. This seemed to further irritate Amanda. That's exactly my point. She's overstepping, trying to get too close to my children. Next thing you know, she'll be trying to parent them on this trip. The conversation spiraled from there. Every reasonable point I made was met with an increasingly irrational argument. When I mentioned that I was paying for the entire trip, Amanda shot back that this isn't about money, and accused me of trying to buy control of family decisions. When she began calling Rachel manipulative, and obviously after your money, I'd had enough. This conversation is over, Amanda. Rachel is coming. If you can't be civil, that's your problem to solve, not mine. I hung up despite her protests, my hands shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. I'd expected some resistance from Amanda, but nothing like this level of hostility. Little did I know, this was just the opening salvo in a battle that would ultimately change our family dynamic forever. The following weekend, my parents hosted a barbecue. I arrived with Rachel, both of us somewhat apprehensive after my late-night call with Amanda, but determined to keep things pleasant for everyone's sake. From the moment we stepped into the backyard, the tension was palpable. Amanda was manning the grill with Dad, a position she claimed to help him out, but which everyone knew was her way of controlling yet another aspect of our gathering. She acknowledged my arrival with a curt nod and completely ignored Rachel. Mom, ever the peacekeeper, rushed over to welcome us with forced cheerfulness. Rachel, dear, I'm so glad you could make it. Come help me finish the salad. As Rachel followed my mom inside, Amanda handed the grill tongs to Dad and approached me. We need to talk privately, she said in a low voice. Now. She led me to the side of the house, away from curious ears. Once we were alone, she turned to face me, arms crossed tightly over her chest. I'm only going to say this once, Garrett. I forbid you to bring Rachel on our family vacation. I stared at her, momentarily speechless at her audacity. You forbid me? What exactly gives you the authority to forbid me from doing anything? I'm the oldest, she said, as if that explained everything. And I'm looking out for our family's best interests. This is supposed to be a special time for Mom and Dad, not a showcase for your relationship. Amanda, I'm paying for this entire trip. Every flight, every room, every activity. I've spent months planning it for everyone's enjoyment, including yours. You don't get to dictate who I bring. Her face hardened. It's either her or me, Garrett. If she goes, my family and I won't. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. I took a deep breath, trying to process what she was saying. You would really disappoint Mom and Dad, disappoint your own kids, just because you can't stand to see me happy with Rachel? Don't try to make this about your happiness, she snapped. This is about family boundaries. Rachel is not family. She's important to me, I insisted. That should count for something. Amanda's expression turned calculating. If you insist on bringing her, I'll make sure the entire trip is uncomfortable for everyone. I'll make sure Mom and Dad understand how their anniversary celebration was ruined by your selfishness. Are you actually threatening to deliberately ruin our parents' anniversary trip? I asked incredulously. I'm promising to make my feelings known, she replied. And you know Mom and Dad will always side with keeping the peace. They'll ask you to reconsider bringing Rachel to avoid conflict. I recognized the manipulation tactic immediately. Amanda had been using our parents' desire for harmony against all of us for years. I felt a surge of anger but kept my voice level. I need to think about this, I said finally. This isn't a decision I'm making on the spot based on threats. There's nothing to think about, she insisted. Family comes first. Always. I walked away without responding further, my mind racing. The rest of the barbecue passed in a blur of forced small talk and artificial smiles. Rachel sensed something was wrong but waited until we were in the car heading home to ask about it. I explained Amanda's ultimatum, watching Rachel's expression fall as I recounted my sister's harsh words. To my surprise, Rachel didn't immediately rage against the unfairness of it all. Maybe I should sit this one out, she suggested quietly. I don't want to be the reason there's family conflict on such an important occasion. Her selflessness only made me more determined to stand my ground. That's exactly what Amanda wants. She's been pulling this kind of manipulation our entire lives, and everyone just gives in to keep the peace. The next day, I called my parents to get their perspective. As predicted, they were distressed by the conflict but reluctant to take sides. We love Rachel, you know that, Mom said cautiously. But maybe for this one trip, it might be easier if I give in to Amanda's demands? I finished for her. Like we always do? Dad got on the line. Son, we appreciate everything you're doing for this trip. We're not taking sides here. We just want everyone to get along. I know, Dad. But at some point, giving in to unreasonable demands stops being about keeping the peace and starts being about enabling bad behavior. After hanging up, I felt more conflicted than ever. I wanted my parents to have the perfect anniversary celebration, but I was also tired of Amanda's control over family matters. I called my best friend Marcus for an outside perspective. Let me get this straight, Marcus said after I explained the situation. You're spending 20 grand of your own money on this trip, and your sister is dictating who you can bring? That's next level entitlement, man. She's always been this way, I admitted. And we've all just worked around it. How's that working out for everyone? Marcus asked pointedly. Your brother-in-law looks like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Your parents walk on eggshells. And you're calling me stressed out about a vacation you're paying for. His words hit home. The pattern had been established for decades. Amanda makes demands, everyone accommodates them to avoid conflict. Amanda's sense of entitlement grows, and the cycle continues. The question you need to ask yourself, Marcus continued, is whether giving in this time will make things better or worse in the long run. Not just for you, but for everyone who deals with her. By the time we ended the call, I had clarity. This wasn't just about Rachel or even about this particular vacation. It was about finally breaking a dysfunctional pattern that had been harming our family for years. With my decision made, I called Amanda for one final conversation. I've thought about what you said, I told her. Rachel will be joining us on this trip. She's important to me, and I want her there. Then you've made your choice, Amanda said coldly. We won't be going. That's your decision to make, I replied. But I hope you'll reconsider for Mom and Dad's sake, and for your kids who are really looking forward to this. Don't try to guilt me, she snapped. This is on you. The call ended with neither of us backing down. As I put down the phone, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. For the first time in my life, I had directly refused to accommodate Amanda's unreasonable demands. Whatever happened next, I knew I had taken a necessary stand. What I didn't tell Amanda was that I had already made up my mind about exactly how to respond to her ultimatum. She had said it was either Rachel or her. What she didn't realize was that I was finally ready to make that choice. After that final conversation with Amanda, I sat in my home office staring at my computer screen for nearly an hour. The Hawaii vacation page was open, showing all the reservations I had so carefully made. 6 beautiful ocean view suites at the Royal Hawaiian. 14 round-trip first-class tickets from Chicago to Honolulu. Private tours, luau reservations, snorkeling expeditions, and a sunset dinner cruise for my parents' anniversary night. I had put my heart into planning this trip, not just my money. Every detail had been considered with care, from my father's mobility issues to my youngest nephew's food allergies. Now Amanda's ultimatum threatened to derail it all. The familiar guilt started creeping in. Maybe I should just ask Rachel to stay behind. Maybe keeping family peace was worth the compromise. Maybe. I shook my head, clearing away those thoughts. No. This pattern had gone on long enough. I thought about what this trip would be like if I gave in to Amanda's demands. Rachel would be hurt, though she tried to hide it. I would resent Amanda the entire time. The tension would be palpable, affecting everyone's experience. My parents' anniversary celebration would be tainted by undercurrents of conflict and capitulation. And most importantly, nothing would change. Amanda would continue making demands, secure in the knowledge that everyone would eventually bend to her will. My friend Marcus's words echoed in my head. Is giving in this time going to make things better or worse in the long run? I knew the answer. It was time for a different approach. With newfound resolve, I clicked on Amanda's family's reservations. Her suite, connecting to her children's room. Her family's 4 plane tickets. I selected them all and navigated to the cancellation page. My finger hovered over the mouse button for several seconds. This was a major step, one that would undoubtedly cause significant family drama. But sometimes, a dramatic gesture is necessary to break an unhealthy cycle. I clicked. Cancel reservations. The confirmation screen appeared, asking if I was sure. I was. I completed the cancellation process, arranging for the refund to be sent directly to Amanda's bank account. I didn't want her to be able to claim I had kept her money. This wasn't about financial punishment, but about establishing boundaries. Next, I documented everything. I took screenshots of the cancellation confirmations and the refund information. I compiled all the texts and emails from Amanda making her various demands about the trip. I even wrote out a timeline of events leading to this decision, including her ultimatum. Experience had taught me that Amanda would likely twist the narrative when explaining to the rest of the family why she wasn't going to Hawaii. With everything prepared, I called Rachel to tell her what I had done. "You did what?" she gasped when I explained. "Garrett, are you sure about this? It's going to cause such an uproar in your family." "I'm sure," I said, feeling more confident by the minute. "Amanda gave me a choice between you and her. I chose you. Not just because of how I feel about you, but because it's time someone stood up to her manipulation." Rachel was quiet for a moment. "I appreciate you standing up for us, but I'm worried about the fallout. Your parents' anniversary trip will be more enjoyable without Amanda's constant demands and controlling behavior," I finished. "Trust me, everyone walks on eggshells around her. This might actually be the most relaxed family vacation we've ever had." "What about her kids? Your niece and nephews were so excited about this trip." That was the hardest part. I genuinely loved Lily, Jason, and Emma and hated that they would miss out because of their mother's behavior. "I know," I admitted. "That's the only part of this I truly regret. But they'll have other opportunities for vacations. And maybe this will be a lesson for them too about consequences." After finishing my call with Rachel, I sent a brief, factual email to my parents explaining what had happened. I didn't vilify Amanda but simply stated that she had given me an ultimatum regarding Rachel's attendance, and I had made my choice. I assured them the trip was still on for the rest of us and that I was looking forward to celebrating their anniversary. Then I waited for the storm to hit. It took less than 3 hours. My phone exploded with notification after notification. Text messages from Amanda filled with expletives and accusations. Confused calls from my parents. Even a rare message from my brother-in-law Derek asking what was going on. I didn't respond immediately to Amanda's tirades. Instead, I called my parents back and calmly explained the situation in more detail. I was honest about canceling Amanda's reservations and sending her the refund. "I know this is going to make things complicated," I told them. And I'm sorry for that. But I'm not sorry for finally standing up to her unreasonable demands. Mom was distressed. Couldn't you have found another way to resolve this? Your sister is beside herself. I tried, Mom. I really did. But Amanda made it clear, either Rachel doesn't come, or she and her family don't come. She made that choice, not me. Dad was quiet for a long time before speaking. Son, I can't say I approve of how this has played out. But I understand why you did what you did. Your sister has always had a way of, well, getting what she wants at others' expense. It wasn't full support, but it was something. And it was more than I had expected. The next 24 hours were a blur of damage control. I explained my side to various family members as Amanda worked the phones trying to rally support for her position. I remained calm and factual, refusing to engage in the emotional warfare that was Amanda's preferred battlefield. Through it all, I held firm to my decision. The refund had been processed, the reservations were cancelled, and the rest of us would be proceeding with the vacation as planned. If Amanda wanted to book her own way to Hawaii, that was her prerogative. But she would no longer be dictating the terms of a trip she wasn't financing. 3 days before our scheduled departure, the battle lines had been clearly drawn. Most family members were trying to stay neutral, though a few of my cousins privately messaged their support for my stand against Amanda's behavior. My parents were still hoping for a last-minute reconciliation but were preparing to go on the trip regardless. And Amanda was planning her final offensive. The notification came through on Amanda's phone during her lunch break. Your refund of $5,842.73 has been processed. Confused, she clicked on the alert, which led her to an email from the Royal Hawaiian Resort confirming the cancellation of her reservations. At the same time, a similar email from the airline appeared, showing refunds for 4 first-class tickets to Honolulu. I later heard from Derek that she nearly broke her phone slamming it down on her desk. She immediately tried calling me, but I was in a meeting and had my phone on silent. By the time I checked my messages an hour later, there were 12 missed calls from Amanda and a series of increasingly furious texts. What the hell have you done? Call me back immediately. You cannot be serious about this. Mom and Dad are going to be devastated. When I finally called her back, her voice was trembling with rage. How dare you cancel our reservations without even telling me? Do you have any idea how excited the kids were for this trip? How could you be so selfish? I had prepared for this conversation and kept my voice even. Amanda, you gave me an ultimatum. You said it was either Rachel or you. I made my choice. That was just. I didn't think you'd actually. She sputtered, thrown off by my calm response. You didn't think I'd stand up for myself? I suggested. That's been the pattern, hasn't it? You make demands, everyone accommodates you to keep the peace, and the cycle continues. This isn't about patterns or cycles, she nearly shouted. This is about you choosing your girlfriend of a few months over your own sister and her family. No, Amanda. This is about me refusing to let you control a vacation that I'm paying for. You've been making demands since the moment I announced this trip. The rooms weren't right, the flight times weren't convenient enough, you wanted special meal arrangements at every restaurant. I accommodated what I reasonably could because I wanted everyone to enjoy themselves. But drawing a line at who I can bring? That crosses into controlling my personal life, and I won't accept that. I'm calling Mom and Dad. She threatened. They'll be horrified when they hear what you've done. They already know. I informed her. I called them yesterday and explained everything, including your ultimatum. That seemed to knock the wind out of her sails momentarily. What did they say? She demanded. They're upset about the conflict, naturally. But they understand my position. This wasn't entirely accurate. My parents were distressed and still hoping for reconciliation, but I wasn't going to give Amanda ammunition to use against me. We're having a family meeting tonight, she declared. 7 o'clock at Mom and Dad's. Everyone needs to hear about this. I'll be there. I agreed, knowing this confrontation was inevitable. By 7 that evening, The tension in my parents' living room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Amanda and Derek sat on one sofa, their children conspicuously absent. My parents occupied their usual chairs, looking tired and worried. Rachel and I sat on the love seat opposite Amanda, presenting a united front. Amanda wasted no time launching into her attack. "Garrett has unilaterally decided to exclude me and my family from the Hawaii trip," she announced dramatically. "After months of planning, after the kids have been counting down the days, he's simply cancelled all our reservations without a word of warning." I waited until she paused for breath before responding. "That's not entirely accurate, and you know it, Amanda. You gave me an ultimatum. Either Rachel doesn't come on the trip, or you and your family won't come. Your exact words were, it's either her or me. I simply took you at your word and made my choice. I never expected you to actually cancel our reservations," she protested. That was a completely disproportionate response. "What did you expect to happen?" I asked genuinely. "That I would just tell Rachel she couldn't come because you didn't want her there? On a trip that I'm paying for entirely out of my own pocket? This was supposed to be a family trip," she insisted, looking to our parents for support. "For Mom and Dad's anniversary. Rachel is not family. Rachel is important to me," I countered. "And everyone else was happy to have her join us. The only person with an objection was you." Amanda turned to our parents. "Mom, Dad, surely you can see how inappropriate this is? How can we celebrate your anniversary properly with an outsider there?" Before they could respond, I pulled out my phone. "Before we go further, I want to make sure we're all working with the same information." I proceeded to read aloud from my documented timeline, including specific quotes from Amanda's texts and phone calls over the past months. I detailed her escalating demands about the trip arrangements. I quoted her exact words from her ultimatum. I showed the bank transfer confirmation of the full refund she had received. "I've bent over backwards to accommodate your requests about this trip," I concluded. "The one thing I won't compromise on is who I choose to bring as my guest on a vacation that I'm financing." The room fell silent as my evidence hung in the air. My mother looked close to tears. My father's expression was unreadable. Amanda was seething, while Derek stared at the floor, clearly uncomfortable. After a long moment, Mom spoke. "We appreciate everything you've done to plan this trip, Garrett. It's incredibly generous of you. But family is about compromise. Isn't there some way to work this out without anyone being excluded?" Before I could respond, Amanda jumped in. "The solution is simple. Rachel stays home, and we all go as a family as originally planned." "That wasn't the original plan," I corrected her. "The original plan was for me to take my entire family, including Rachel, to Hawaii. You're the one who changed the terms, Amanda, not me." Dad cleared his throat. "Amanda, I have to ask, why is it so important to you that Rachel not come along? She's been nothing but kind to this family since Garrett started seeing her." Amanda seemed startled by the direct question from our typically conflict-avoidant father. It's about family boundaries. This is our family celebration. But Garrett is paying for everything," Dad continued, surprising me with his persistence. "Doesn't that give him some say in who attends? So it's just about money," Amanda shot back. "Garrett thinks he can buy the right to change our family dynamics?" "No," Rachel spoke up for the first time, her voice quiet but firm. "It's about respect. Respect for Garrett's choices, respect for his generosity, and respect for his relationship." Amanda's eyes narrowed. "No one asked for your input." "Actually," I interjected, "Rachel's perspective matters to me, even if it doesn't to you." The tension in the room ratcheted up another notch. Then, unexpectedly, Derek spoke. "Amanda," he said, his voice hesitant but determined, "I think you're being unreasonable about this." All eyes turned to him in shock. Derek almost never contradicted his wife, especially in public. "The kids are devastated about missing this trip," he continued. "And for what? Because you don't want Garrett's girlfriend there? That doesn't make sense." Amanda stared at her husband in disbelief. Whose side are you on? I'm on the side of our family having a great vacation, Derek replied with uncharacteristic firmness. Garrett has been incredibly generous. Rachel is a lovely person who our kids adore. Your objection seems personal. And it's not fair to the rest of us. Amanda stood abruptly. I can see I'm outnumbered here. If everyone wants to take Garrett's side, fine. But don't expect me to pretend this is okay. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Derek, we're leaving. Derek hesitated, looking torn between following his wife and continuing the conversation. After a moment's internal struggle, he sighed and got to his feet. I'm sorry about all this, he said to the room in general. For what it's worth, I think you made a generous offer, Garrett. And Rachel, I hope someday Amanda will see that you're a positive addition to our family gatherings. With that, he followed Amanda out, the front door slamming behind them. The four of us remaining sat in stunned silence for several long moments. Finally, Mom wiped away a tear. I don't know what's going to happen now, she said. This is the worst fight your sister has ever had with the family. Dad reached over to take her hand. It will sort itself out, one way or another. These things usually do. I'm really sorry it came to this, I told them sincerely. I never wanted to create family drama, especially before your anniversary. We know that, son, Dad said. And for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing standing your ground. Your sister has, well, she's always had a strong personality. Sometimes that crosses into controlling behavior. It was the most direct criticism of Amanda I'd ever heard from either of my parents. Their tacit acknowledgement of the problem felt validating after years of everyone tiptoeing around Amanda's demands. So what happens now? Rachel asked the question we were all thinking. With the trip, I mean. I looked to my parents. That's up to you too. If you'd prefer to postpone until this blows over, I understand. Mom and Dad exchanged a long look, communicating in that wordless way that couples develop over decades together. We're going to Hawaii, Dad finally declared. Your mother and I have been looking forward to this trip for months. Amanda has made her choice, and while we're sad about it, we're not going to let it derail our anniversary celebration. Mom nodded in agreement, though her eyes were still sad. We just hope that by the time we get back, cooler heads will prevail. As Rachel and I drove home later that night, the weight of the confrontation hung heavily between us. Do you regret bringing me into all this? She asked softly. I reached over to take her hand. Not for a second. Standing up to Amanda was long overdue, with or without you in the picture. But having you by my side made it easier to find the courage. With departure day just 48 hours away, I tried to focus on the positive. Most of the family was still going, my parents were supportive, and perhaps this would be the beginning of a healthier dynamic with my sister. But a part of me couldn't help wondering if I had permanently damaged my relationship with Amanda and her family, and whether that price was too high to pay for finally standing my ground. Departure day arrived with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. We gathered at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, a smaller group than originally planned but still substantial. My parents, 2 sets of aunts and uncles, 3 cousins with their spouses, Rachel, and me. Everyone was carefully avoiding mentioning the elephant in the room, the absence of Amanda and her family. My mother kept checking her phone, a worried expression crossing her face each time. I thought she might change her mind at the last minute, she confided to me as we waited to board. For the children's sake, if nothing else. Amanda doesn't change her mind, Mom, I reminded her gently. Once she takes a position, she sticks to it, regardless of who gets hurt in the process. Dad put his arm around Mom's shoulders. Let's try to focus on enjoying ourselves. This trip is about celebrating 40 years together, remember? Mom nodded, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. You're right. I'm determined to make the most of this opportunity. Boarding was called, and we filed onto the plane, settling into the first-class accommodations I had splurged on. As the flight attendants served pre-takeoff champagne, I noticed my parents relaxing incrementally. By the time we were airborne, they were reminiscing about their honeymoon to Niagara Falls 40 years earlier, laughing about the tiny motel room with the leaky ceiling. Rachel squeezed my hand. "They're going to be okay," she whispered. "This will be good for all of you." The flight passed pleasantly, with family members moving between seats to chat, share snacks, and even play cards. I realized with a start that this easy, relaxed interaction was something we rarely experienced at family gatherings where Amanda was present. There was always a subtle tension, a careful monitoring of words and actions to avoid triggering her disapproval. 8 hours later, we landed in Honolulu and were greeted with traditional flower leis and a warm Hawaiian welcome. The tropical air was heavy with the scent of plumeria and salt as we boarded the shuttle to our resort. The Royal Hawaiian, the Pink Palace of the Pacific, lived up to its reputation. Our ocean view suites were spacious and elegant, with private lanais overlooking the famous Waikiki beach. As a surprise, I had arranged for welcome baskets in each room, filled with local treats, reef-safe sunscreen, and personalized itineraries. "This is absolutely stunning," Mom gasped as she took in their suite. "Richard, look at this view. It's like a postcard." Dad, not usually given to effusive displays, was clearly moved. "Son, this is beyond generous. We can't thank you enough." The first day was intentionally light on scheduled activities to allow everyone to recover from the journey. Most of us ended up on the beach, soaking in the warm Hawaiian sun and testing the crystal-clear waters. My mother, who had been so worried at the airport, was now laughing as she and Dad attempted to master the art of the selfie with Diamond Head in the background. That evening at dinner, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Lily, my 14-year-old niece. "Uncle Garrett, we miss you. Mom won't talk about why we couldn't come. Is she mad at you?" My heart ached reading her message. I carefully composed a response. "I miss you too, Lily. Your mom and I had a disagreement about the trip. I'm really sorry you couldn't come. I'll bring you something special from Hawaii." Minutes later, she replied. Mom took away Jason's phone when she caught him texting Rachel about the trip. "She's really angry." I shared this exchange with Rachel later in our room. "I hate that the kids are caught in the middle of this," I said. Rachel looked troubled. "Do you think Amanda is turning them against you?" "Probably trying to," I admitted. "But they're smart kids. They'll figure out there are two sides to this story eventually." The next morning brought our first scheduled activity, a snorkeling expedition to Hanuma Bay. As we prepared to board the tour boat, my cousin Mark pulled me aside. "Just wanted to say, the vibe on this trip is really nice," he said quietly. "Don't get me wrong, I love Amanda, but family gatherings are always so tense when she's running the show." I was surprised by his candor. "You've noticed that too?" Mark laughed. "Everyone has noticed, Garrett. We just don't talk about it. But this," he gestured to our relaxed family group boarding the boat, "this is what family time should feel like." His words stayed with me throughout the day as I watched my family genuinely enjoying themselves. My mother, who normally spent family gatherings trying to anticipate and prevent conflicts, was carefree as she marveled at the colorful fish swimming around her. My father, whose interactions with Amanda were always carefully measured, was cracking jokes and taking underwater photos with an abandon I hadn't seen in years. Even more telling was how everyone embraced Rachel's presence. My aunts included her in their conversations about family history. My cousins' spouses, normally a quiet group around Amanda, sought Rachel out to share experiences and recommendations. She wasn't treated as an outsider but welcomed as part of the family circle. Daily texts continued to arrive from Amanda, primarily directed at our parents. They ranged from guilt-inducing, "The kids cried again about missing Hawaii," to accusatory, "I hope you're enjoying the family vacation without your oldest daughter," to manipulative, "Dad, you know your blood pressure. Should you really be allowing this kind of family conflict?" To their credit, my parents responded with brief, loving messages without engaging with the manipulation attempts. "We miss you and the kids. We'll show you all our pictures when we get back. Love you? By midweek, we'd settled into a rhythm of morning activities, afternoon relaxation, and evening gatherings. The planned luau celebration for my parents' anniversary was a highlight, with traditional Hawaiian food, music, and dance. The resort had arranged for a private area for our group, and the staff presented my parents with a special anniversary cake and matching flower crowns. As I watched my parents slow dancing under the stars, fairy lights twinkling above them and the sound of ukuleles in the background, I knew I had made the right decision. This moment of pure joy would have been impossible with Amanda's dark cloud hanging over the celebration. Rachel and I took a moonlit walk on the beach after the luau. Your parents seem really happy, she observed. Everyone does. It's like we're all remembering what family gatherings can be like, I said. No walking on eggshells, no carefully monitoring every word and action. Do you think things will change when you all go back home? Rachel asked. I considered this. I hope so. At the very least, I don't think I can go back to the old pattern of just giving in to keep the peace. And I think my parents and others are seeing the benefits of standing up to unreasonable demands. Even if it causes conflict? Sometimes conflict is necessary for growth, I said, surprising myself with the insight. The alternative is staying stuck in dysfunctional patterns forever. Rachel smiled up at me, the moonlight illuminating her face. That's very wise, Mr. Software Engineer. I have my moments, I laughed, pulling her close. As we stood there with the waves lapping at our feet and the Hawaiian breeze surrounding us, I felt a profound sense of rightness. Whatever happened with Amanda when we returned home, this moment, and this entire vacation, had been worth it. On our last full day in Hawaii, my phone pinged with an unexpected message. It was from Derek. The kids made me promise to send you these. Attached were 3 photos, Lily holding up a handmade card that read, Miss you in Hawaii! Jason giving a thumbs up while wearing a Hawaiian shirt he'd apparently bought in solidarity, and Emma hugging a stuffed dolphin with a note saying, Bring me a real one! I showed the photos to Rachel, feeling a complicated mixture of love for my niece and nephews and sadness that they'd missed this experience. We'll make it up to them somehow, Rachel promised, seeming to read my thoughts. Maybe a special day just for them when we get back. As we packed our bags on the final evening, the mood was bittersweet. The vacation had exceeded everyone's expectations, creating memories that would last a lifetime. My parents had experienced the anniversary celebration they deserved, surrounded by family who genuinely wanted to celebrate with them. Yet we all knew we were returning to an unresolved conflict. Amanda's absence had been a relief in many ways, but the reality of dealing with the aftermath awaited us back in Chicago. Whatever happens, my father said during our farewell dinner, raising his glass in a toast, we want to thank you, Garrett, for giving us this incredible gift. Not just the trip itself, which has been beyond anything we could have imagined, but also the gift of standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. My mother wiped away a tear as she added, And Rachel, thank you for being part of our celebration. You've brought such joy to our son and to all of us this week. As everyone clinked glasses, I felt a profound sense of peace. The road ahead might be challenging, but for the first time in my life, I felt confident in my ability to navigate family dynamics without sacrificing my own well-being or values. The Hawaii sun had illuminated more than just the beautiful landscapes. It had cast light on the possibility of a healthier, more authentic family relationship moving forward. The return to Chicago brought us back to reality in more ways than one. Swapping the balmy Hawaiian air for the Midwest's autumn chill was jarring enough, but the knowledge that we were coming home to unresolved family tension made the adjustment even more difficult. I didn't hear from Amanda for the first 3 days after our return. My parents reported a brief, strained phone call where she asked about the trip but changed the subject whenever they tried to discuss the conflict directly. The silence from her direction was unprecedented. Amanda typically preferred to air grievances loudly and repeatedly until she got her way. I'm worried about her, Mom confessed when she called to thank me again for the trip. She's never been this quiet after a disagreement. Maybe she's reflecting, I suggested, though I doubted it. Amanda wasn't known for introspection. Maybe, Mom said, not sounding convinced. She did ask when you might be coming over for Sunday dinner again. That surprised me. What did you tell her? That you're always welcome, of course. We're still a family, Garrett, despite everything. Despite my mother's optimism, I approached that Sunday dinner with significant apprehension. Rachel offered to come for moral support, but I decided it would be better to face Amanda alone for this first encounter. Walking into my parents' house felt like entering a minefield. Amanda was already there, sitting at the dining room table arranging flowers as if nothing had happened. Derek gave me a quick, apologetic smile. The kids' reactions were more telling. Lily hugged me fiercely. Jason showed me his new video game with exaggerated enthusiasm, and even 8-year-old Emma whispered, "Mom said we can't talk about Hawaii, but did you see any dolphins?" Dinner itself was an exercise in careful conversation. We discussed the weather, local news, and the children's school activities while expertly navigating around the enormous elephant in the room. My parents showed a few vacation photos on Dad's tablet, carefully gauging Amanda's reaction before proceeding. For her part, Amanda maintained a cool politeness that was somehow more unnerving than open hostility would have been. She asked appropriate questions about the resort and the activities but avoided any mention of the conflict that had led to her absence. It wasn't until after dessert, when the kids had gone to the living room and Derek was helping Dad with something in the garage, that Amanda finally addressed the issue directly. "You humiliated me," she said quietly, her eyes fixed on her coffee cup. "In front of the entire family." I took a deep breath, determined to remain calm. "That wasn't my intention, Amanda. You canceled my reservations without warning. You made me look like the villain to my own children. Do you have any idea how that felt?" For a moment, I felt a twinge of regret. Had I gone too far? Had there been a better way to handle the situation? "I'm sorry your feelings were hurt," I said carefully. "But you gave me an ultimatum that forced me to make a choice. I made the only choice I could live with." She looked up sharply. "You chose your girlfriend over your sister." "No," I corrected her. "I chose not to let you dictate the terms of a trip I was paying for. I chose to stand up to manipulation rather than give in to it as we've all done for years." "Manipulation?" Her voice rose slightly. "Is that what you think family consideration is?" "Family consideration goes both ways, Amanda. You've never considered how your demands affect others. You've never considered that other people's needs and wants might be as valid as yours." Mom, who had been silently witnessing this exchange, tentatively spoke up. "The trip was lovely, Amanda. But we miss you and the children terribly. Then you should have done something about it." Amanda replied, her tone accusatory. "You could have convinced Garrett to be reasonable." "Reasonable?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Like you were being reasonable by forbidding me from bringing Rachel? It was a family trip. And who decides who counts as family? You. Rachel is important to me. That should have been enough for you to welcome her inclusion." Amanda fell silent, a rarity for her. After a long moment, she said, "The kids were devastated. They had been looking forward to Hawaii for months." "I know," I acknowledged, feeling genuine regret about that aspect. "And I'm truly sorry they missed out. That was collateral damage I wish could have been avoided." "Then why did you do it?" The question seemed to come from a place of genuine confusion rather than anger. "Because some patterns need to be broken, Amanda. Our entire lives you've made demands and everyone has accommodated them to keep the peace. It's not healthy, not for you, not for me, not for our parents, not even for your kids who are learning that this is how family dynamics should work." Mom nodded slowly. "There's some truth to that, Amanda. We've always tried to keep everyone happy, but sometimes that's meant giving in to stronger personalities to avoid conflict." Amanda looked genuinely shocked to hear this from our conflict-avoidant mother. "Are you saying I'm difficult?" "You're strong-willed," Mom said diplomatically. "That's not necessarily a bad thing. But sometimes it can overshadow other people's needs. The conversation might have deteriorated from there, but we were interrupted by the return of Dad and Derek. The moment passed, but something had shifted. Amanda was quieter for the remainder of the evening, almost contemplative. As I was leaving, Derek pulled me aside in the hallway. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what?" "For standing your ground. It needed to happen." I was startled by his candor. "I thought you'd be angry about missing the trip." Derek shook his head. "I was disappointed, sure. But I've spent 15 years watching everyone bend over backwards to accommodate Amanda's demands. Including me," he added with a rueful smile. It was refreshing to see someone finally say no. "Has it made things difficult for you at home?" I asked, concerned. "Initially, yes. But something unexpected has happened. She's been different since this all went down. More reflective. Less quick to issue orders. It's subtle, but it's there." I drove home that night with mixed emotions. The dinner had gone better than I'd feared, but not as well as I'd hoped. Amanda was still hurt and resentful, but there had been moments of genuine communication that gave me hope for eventual reconciliation. Over the following weeks, a new pattern began to emerge in our family interactions. Amanda was noticeably less demanding, though she still maintained a certain coolness toward me. My parents seemed more willing to express their own preferences rather than automatically deferring to Amanda's wishes. Even the dynamics at family gatherings had shifted, with conversations flowing more naturally and less tension in the air. Rachel was gradually included in more family events, with Amanda making visible efforts to be civil, if not warm. The children, relieved that the adults were no longer in open conflict, returned to their normal relationships with all of us. The true turning point came at Thanksgiving, 2 months after the Hawaii trip. As usual, we gathered at my parents' house for the holiday meal. Amanda had always appointed herself in charge of the proceedings, dictating everything from seating arrangements to serving order. This year, when she arrived, instead of immediately taking control, she asked Mom, "How can I help? What would you like me to do?" The subtle shift wasn't lost on anyone present. My mother's surprised smile said everything. Later, as we were clearing dishes between dinner and dessert, Amanda approached me in the kitchen. "Can we talk for a minute?" she asked, nodding toward the back porch. Outside in the crisp November air, Amanda seemed to struggle for words, something I had rarely witnessed in my assertive sister. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," she finally said. "With the Hawaii trip and everything." I waited, giving her space to continue. "I still think you could have handled it differently," she said, a flash of the old Amanda surfacing. But then she took a deep breath. "But I could have too. I shouldn't have given you that ultimatum. It wasn't fair." Coming from Amanda, this was equivalent to a full-throated apology. I felt a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying lift from my shoulders. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "And you're right, I could have handled things differently too. I'm sorry the kids missed out on the trip." She nodded. "Derek says?" "He says I've been too controlling for too long. That I need to respect other people's boundaries more." She gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. "Apparently he's been wanting to say that for years." "Change isn't easy," I acknowledged. "For any of us. But I think we can have a healthier family dynamic going forward." "Rachel seems nice," Amanda offered, clearly making an effort. "Lily really likes her." "She is nice," I agreed. "And she makes me happy." Amanda nodded again. "I can see that." After a pause, she added, "I'm trying, Garrett. It's not easy for me to not be in charge. But I'm trying. That's all any of us can do," I said, and in a moment of inspiration I added, "Maybe next year we can plan a family trip together. All of us." A small smile appeared on Amanda's face. "I'd like that. But maybe somewhere closer to home. And I insist on paying my own way." "Deal," I said, and we sealed it with an awkward but genuine hug before heading back inside to join the family. That night, as Rachel and I drove home, I shared the details of my conversation with Amanda. "It sounds like a breakthrough," Rachel observed. Not a complete transformation, but a start. That's exactly what it is, I agreed. A start. Amanda isn't going to change overnight. None of us are. But the pattern has been disrupted, and that's opened up space for something healthier to develop. In the months that followed, our family continued to find a new equilibrium. There were still occasional flare-ups of Amanda's controlling tendencies, but they were less frequent and less intense. More importantly, the rest of us had found our voices and learned to establish boundaries when needed. The Hawaii trip had been a catalyst for change that was long overdue. By standing my ground on a principle that mattered to me, I had inadvertently set in motion a transformation in our family dynamic that benefited everyone, even Amanda herself, though she might not fully recognize it yet. As for Rachel and me, our relationship continued to deepen. The crucible of family conflict had revealed the strength of our connection and our ability to support each other through difficulties. 6 months after the Hawaii trip, I asked her to move in with me, with thoughts of a more permanent commitment on the horizon. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the hardest choices yield the most valuable results. Standing up to Amanda's ultimatum wasn't just about asserting my right to bring Rachel on a vacation. It was about breaking a dysfunctional pattern that had constrained our family for decades. It was about finding the courage to risk conflict in service of healthier relationships. And ultimately, it was about loving my family enough to challenge behaviors that were harming all of us. The trip to Hawaii was meant to be a celebration of my parents' 40 years together. It became something more, a watershed moment that allowed our family to grow and evolve. The memories we created on those sun-drenched beaches were precious, but the lasting legacy of that vacation was the more authentic, respectful family dynamic that emerged from the conflict. What about you? Have you ever had to make a difficult stand with family that ultimately led to positive change? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the most necessary ones. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need encouragement to set healthy boundaries. Thank you for listening, and remember, true family love sometimes means having the courage to disrupt unhealthy patterns.